Welcome to Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. Join Toby Malone and TJ Young, along with some special friends, as we puzzle our way through what we once thought was an unreadable book to produce a surprisingly listenable podcast. It is Thursday, May 16th, 2024. It is day one of the reading, with 0 pages complete of 628, meaning we have 628 pages left to go and are 0% of the way through Finnegans Wake. Welcome to episode 1 of Wake, an experiment that has no true meaning, purpose or structure, but which fulfills a long-held bucket list item, reading James Joyce's Finnegans Wake out loud just once. I'm your host, Toby Malone, and I am joined by my dear friend, TJ Young, as we commence this odyssey through the Wake. How are you, TJ?
I am good. I'm hydrated. I'm ready to go. Ate my protein this morning, so I'm prepared.
Yeah, I'm not sure we know what we've got ourselves into here. Last week was all fun and games, talking just the research, but now we're getting into the meat of the matter. So we will find out whether or not we're up for this. I will say that if this is your first episode of Wake, if you've skipped the episode 0, I'd suggest you pause here and go back to listen to that episode 0, which is full of all the context that we gathered around the book. However, if you have already tried episode 0, got 5 minutes in and quit, I fully understand. You only hear just to hear the Joyce words. I understand that too. So welcome, everyone. So when we recorded episode 0 last week, what was your takeaway from that episode, TJ?
Oh, that I have to unlearn everything I've learned about reading and just completely scratch any expectations. But there's still the expectation. I think it's really hard because there's still the expectation of like every syllable is here for a reason. So I'm like actively going to be like it's trying to teach yourself don't hear words anymore. You know what I mean?
So you're a highly respected professor at a very prominent university in the United States, and you teach dramaturgy and playwriting. So how is this going to affect your practice, do you think?
It's going to drive me crazy because the need to analyze is just like baked into my body. Yeah, and like the more I've sat and I thought about it, and I was like, it's like asking me to forget what the word couch means, so that way I can relearn what it means. There's no way that my brain can do that, so it's going to be constantly fighting against itself.
Right, and then hopefully the flip side is that this starts weeding its way into your teaching, where suddenly you're like, yeah, but does that really mean couch? When the student playwright has written a word, and it just means couch. No, it could mean something else.
Are you sure?
How many syllables are in it? Are they there on purpose?
Have you written couch in every knowable language?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. So it was a good episode. I enjoyed recording the episode. I was a bit worried that we wouldn't have much to talk about. We had so much to talk about, and the really gratifying thing this week is that we've been getting unexpected feedback on the recording last week,
and you expected nothing.
People have been listening to this thing. We've been getting some positivity and enthusiasm from our listening audience. Of course, my next goal will be to add a listener, any listener that I'm not related to. That would be... but for the time being, I'd like to welcome all of the listening Malones who are here on the pod. My sister listened to the podcast and described it as the most Toby thing ever. And she volunteered to be a guest reader. So I choose to take that as a good thing. But it echoes about what you said last week about this being very much the kind of thing that you expected me to participate in. Yeah. So I think we're ready to get going. There's not much more to be said. So we have discussed in advance of this whether or not we'd set a timer, whether we'd play a sound at 30 minutes or 15 minutes. But we've decided we're just going to let Joyce take over and see what happens. When we have guest readers, however, we've already decided that we will have a tap out option. I don't want to force anyone who feels, yeah, I'm good at reading, and then they come into this hellscape and realize that they didn't realize what they got themselves into. So we will give people an opportunity to tap out with no judgment, and I will take over and finish up because this is my stupid idea.
I have a legitimate question for you. Were
Yes.
you the kid in class who was like excited for the reading to come to you? You know, like when they
Oh,
passed the reading around?
absolutely. I was desperate for it. And I would and particularly when you were reading paragraphs and then you'd look down the page to figure out what your paragraph was and you'd be like, "Oh
Yeah.
man, that kid got 9 lines and I'm only getting 3. That sucks." Because I knew I was the best reader in the class. I was terror as a child when it came to reading. I would just devour everything.
It's funny that you
Um,
did that because I was reading ahead to be like, okay, make sure that I have it before I say it out loud.
right, yes, absolutely, yeah. But yeah, I mean, the intention here is, I mean, there's no such worry in this because every paragraph is a monster, every single one, all the small ones, everything. So there's no easy things to look forward to. It's
Very true.
and there's no way to look forward. What we are trying to do a little bit though is we're not going to read ahead ever. We're not going to sort of prepare pronunciations of difficult words or anything like that. And we are committed to the concept of the cold read, but I also wanted to get into the habit of being aware of stylistic curveballs that may come in the chapter that we're about to read. So what we're trying to do is I just glance ahead, see if there's anything. And like I said last week, there are chapters that are set out like plays. There are chapters with multiple voices. There are chapters with music. There's things like that. So I wanted to look forward to see whether there's anything worth noting, and so noting it before we start, and then you can listen out for it. Maybe you hear it, maybe you don't. Obviously, in this first chapter, the big notable element is the content itself. This is probably the section that's the most read section of the entire wake because it's the section that
At the
most people.
beginning before people give up.
That's where people quit. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's bits and pieces, toeholds you can cling on to. Like I said, the Ballad of Finnegans Wake and things like that. But generally, yeah, this would be where people quit. We also talked about the 100-letter noise of the fall, and so we both tried it out last week to much acclaim. I'll get another chance to try it out today. This one's really fun because obviously we talked about how it was the sound of the fall, but it also incorporates the word for thunder. So it's supposed to be like a roll of thunder, but he does it by taking the word for thunder in over a dozen different languages, including Gaelic, Hindustani, Japanese, Finnish, Greek, German, French, Italian, English dialect, Portuguese, Swedish, Danish, all these different things to create this epic sound. And hat tip to finwake.com for the notes that help us out with that. They don't know we exist. I'm sure eventually they will, but I'm going to continue driving people over there because if you want to know more about Finnegans Wake, that is the place to get your notes. So literally, Joyce is saying thunder, 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 thunder as the Tower of Babel crumbles. Like it's this amazing
Which
sense.
is a really cool, like just parallel, like
Yeah,
as the, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And it's the same concept, but described across the world in different ways. So that's something to look forward to. As always, we are reading from the Penguin Modern Classics edition of Finnegans Wake, published in 2000 with a foreword by Seamus Dean. Today we'll be reading the first part of Chapter 1-1, which spans pages 3-16 in this edition. This is a segment that is titled Finnegans Wake with an apostrophe by the Oxford World Classics edition of 2012. And like I said last week, Oxford World Classic Edition gives us a little breakdown of each segment So I'm going to leave that until the end. I'll read those out at the end and see if we can make sense of what's happened. And so I had thought that maybe as I got to each section, I could explain this is what's happening in this section, but that's going to break up the flow. So I don't want to do that. So we'll try that at the end. I'm open to suggestion if we feel as though actually we need to do it before or midst or whatever. So without further ado, Finnegans Wake. River run past Eve and Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to Howth Castle and environs. Sir Tristram Viola de Amours, for over the short sea, had Passencore re-arrived from North Armorica, on this side the scraggy isthmus of Europe Minor, to wield a fight his peninsulate war. Nor had Topsawyer's rocks by the stream Oconee exaggerated in themselves to Laurens County's Gorgios, while they went Dublin their mumper all the time. Nor a voice from a fire bellows mish mish to tauf tauf thwart Piatrick. Not yet, though very soon after, had a kidscad butt-ended a bland old Isaac. Not yet, though all's fair in vanity, were so see Sethers wroth with Toon Nathan Joe. Rot a peck of Pa's malt had gem or shen brewed by arclight, and Rory end to the Regan brow was to be seen ringsome on the aquaface. The fall! Ba 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 dal gar gar taka minara krn con bron ton ron tudron thrun truvar huna aunska skaun tu hu drndu thernuk of a once Wall Street old pa is retailed early in bed and later on life down through all Christian minstrelsy. The great fall of the off-wall entailed at such a short notice the fish shoot of Finnegan, erst solid man, that the Humpty Hill head of himself promptly sends an unquiring one well to the west in quest of his tumpty-tum-toes, and their upturned pike-pointing place is at the knockout in the park, where oranges have been laid to rust upon the green since Devlin's first loved Livy. What clashes here of wills gen wants, ostry gods gagging fishy gods, brekek, kekek, 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 quacks, 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 ualu, 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 quaua, where the battleries partisans are still out to Mathmaster Malachus McGrains, and the Verdens catapulting the camabal sticks out of the wheezed boist of Hoody Head. Assigates and boomerang stroms. Sod's brood beamy fair, Sanglorian save. Arms appeal with larms, appalling. Killy, 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 atoll, atoll. What chance cuddlies, what cashels aired and ventilated? What bide mine loves, sinduced by what togitab solvers? What true feelings for theirs hair with what strong voice of false Jacob? Oh, hear how hath Horsbrowled met the dusk of the father of fornicationists, but, oh my shining stars and body, how hath fame spanned most high heaven the sky sign of soft advertisement, but was, is, issute, ere were sewers. The oaks of Ald, now they lie in peat, yet elms leap where the askers lay. Fall if you will, but will, rise you must, and none so soon either shall the farce, for the nunts come to a set-down secular finish. Bygmester Finnegan, of the stuttering hand, Freeman's Morer, lived in the broadest way imaginable, in his rush lit too far back, for Messorges before Joshuan judges had given us numbers or Helveticus committed Deuteronomy. One yeasty day he sternly struck his teat in a tub for to watch the future of his fates, but ere he swiftly struck it out again by the might of Moses, the very water was evaporated, and all the Guinnesses had met their exodus, so that ought to show you what a penshal duchy chap he was. And during mighty odd years, this man of hod, cement, and edifices in Topaz Thorpe piled building supra-building pon the banks for the livers of by the Swangso. He addle little piffy Annie to ug the little crather. Whither hair in hons tuck up your part in her. Off while Balbuus, mither ahead, with goodly trowel engrasped and ivor-oiled overalls, which he habitually fonseed, like Haroun Childeric Egeberth, he would caligulate by multicabalturals the altitude and multitude until he seesaw by neat light of the liquor where twin 'twas born, his round-headed staple of other days to rise in undress masonry upstanded, joy grant it. A Walworth of a skyscrape of most Eiffel hoith entirely, eriganating from next to nothing and celescating the himmels and all, higher architectural, with a burning bush abob off its bauble top, and with Larens O'Toole's clittering up and tumbles of buckets clottering down. Of the first was he to bear arms and a name, Wassili Busigert of Ringsenborg, His crest of heraldry, invert with ancellars, true blant argent, a hegoak, pursuivant horrid horned, his scutchcomb fest with arches strung, helio of the second, which is for husbandman handling his hoe. Ho, 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 Mr. Finn, you're going to be Mr. Finn again. Come again, Morm, and oh, your vine. Sunday's Eve, and oh, your vinegar. Ha, 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 Mr. Fun, you're going to be fined again. What then, agent-like, brought about that tragedy Thunder's Day, this municipal sin business? Our cube house still rocks as ear witness to the thunder of his Arafatas, but we hear also through successive ages that shebby chorish of uncalified muzzle-missled hymns that would blackguardize the white stone ever hurtle-turtled out of heaven. Stay us wherefore in our search for righteousness, O sustainer. What time we rise and when we take up the toothpick, and wherefore we lump down upon our own leather bed, and in the night and at the fading of the stars. For a nod to the neighbour is better than a wink to the wabsanti. Otherways, ways, like that provost scoffing between bedoning the Jebel and the Gypsian Sea. Crowherb the crunch bracken shall decide. Then we'll know it, the feast is a fly day. She has a gift of seek on sight, and she all casually answers helpers, the dreamy dearie. Heed! It may half been a misfired brick, as some say, or it might have been due to the collapsus of his back promises, as others looked at it. There extend by now 1,001 stories all told of the same. But so sore did Abe at Ivy Hoylard Abels, what with the Walhal's horrors of Rolls Rights, car hacks, stone gens, kissed veins, tram trees, fargaballers, auto kinetons, hippo hobblies, street fleets, torn in taxes, mega fog circuses and ward smotes, and basilicurks and aeropagods, and the hoist and the jolly brule, and the peeler in the coat, and the Mecklenburg bitch bright at his ear, and the Merlinborough barracks, and his 4 old courts, the boar, the moor, and his blight-back working stacks at 12 pins a dozen, and the newbie buses sliding along Safety First Street, and the Derry jellybees snooping around Tell-No-Tailor's corner, and the fumes and the hopes and the strumpty-thump of his Ville's indigenous Rome keepers, home sweepers, dome creepers, Thurum in fancy mud murrumed, and all the uproar from all the Ulfros, a roof for May and a reef for Hugh butt under his bridge suits Tony. One warning fill felt tippling full. His howd field heavy, his hoddit did shake. There was a wall, of course, in erection. Dimb, he stottered from the latter. Damn, he was dud. Dumb, must but a boom, must but a dom. When a mon merries, his lute is all along for whole the world to see. Shies, I should she. Maccool, or why did ye die of a trying thirsty morning? Sobs they sided at Finnegans' Christmas wake. All the hooligans of the nation prostrated in their consternation, and their duodismally profusive plethora of ululation. There was plums and grooms and sheriffs and titherers and raiders and cinnamon too, and the all guioned in with the shoutmost joviality. Agog and Magog and the round of them a grog, to the continuation of that celebration until Hanan Hunnigan's extermination. Some in kinkin chorus, more cankin keening, belling him up and filling him down. He's stiff, but he's steady, as Priam Olam. 'Twas he was the decent gay labouring youth. Sharpen his pillow scone, tap up his beer. Everywhere in this world will ye hear such a din again. With their deep brow Finnegans and their dusty fidelios, they laid him broad on against bled, with a boccaslips of Finisky for his feet, and a barrowload of Guinnesses o'er his head. Tee the tootle of the fluid, hang the twaddle of the fuddled. Oh! Hurrah! There is but young glebe for the owl globe wheels in view, which is tautologically the same thing. Well, him a being so on the flounder of his bulk like an overgrown babeling, let we peep see at hum, well see PG ought he ought patter plate. Hum, from Shoepolist to Bailiwick, or from Ashton to Baranoth, or from by the banks to round the head, or from the foot to the bill to Irrigan's eye, he calmly extensiles. And all the way, a horn! From fjord to fjell, his bay winds oboboes shall wail him rockbound. Ho, ho, ho! In swim, swam, swum, and all the livelong night, the Deldale dapling night, the night of bluery bells, her flitter flute in tricky trochees. Oh, Karina, wake him. With her Essavans, and her Patajack Martins, about all them ins and oses. Tilling a teal of a tum, telling a toll of a teary-tourty tobling, grace before glutton. For what we are, gifts are gross if we are about to believe. So pool the beg and pass the kish for craw's sake. Amen. So sigh us. Grandpapas is fallen down, but Grinny spreads the board. Waste on the joint of a desh. Fin fo fum the fush. Ways be his bacon head. A loaf of Sing Pantry's Kennedy bread, and waist hitched to the hop in his tail, a glass of Danu O'Donnell's famous old Doberlin ale. But lo, as you would quaff off his frowed stuff, and sink teeth through that pith of a flower-white bodie, behold of him as behemoth, for he is nowhere mo. Finish! Only a photograph of a Euston scene. Almost Rubicon Salmasala, ancient from out the ages of the San Penipenities, he is smolten from our mist, wobecaned and packed away, so that meal's dead off for summon, schluck, schleiss, and good rid herring. Yet may we not still see the Brongtong Tithian's form outlined slumbered, even in our own night-time by the sedge of the troutling stream that Bronto loved and that Brunto has a lean on. Hic cubat idyllis, apud libertinum parvulem. What if she be in flags or flitters, reeky rags or Sunday choices, with a mint of mines or beggar a pennyweight? Arrah, sure, we all love little Annie Rooney, or we mean to say, love little Anna Rainey, when under her barella mid piddle, mid puddle, she nanny goes, nancing by. Yo! Brontolone slaps yo snores upon Ben Heather in Seeple Issout too. The cranic head on him, caster of his reasons, peer youthner in yon miss. Hooth! His clay feet swarded in verdigras, stick up stark where he last fell in 'em, by the mund of the magazine wall, where our Maggie seen all, with her sister in shawl. While over against this Bell's alliance behind ill 60, all old followed ill, bag-sides of the fort, bomb, terror bomb, lurk the ombushes, the sight of the lifting in weight of the upjock and hotcombs. Whence, when the clouds roll by, Jamie, a proud's eye view is enjoyable of our Moundings Mass, now Wallenstall National Museum, with, in some greenish distance, the charmful Waterloose country, and the two quite white villagettes who here show of themselves so gigglesomes minx the foliages, the Pritterleys. Penetrators are permitted into the museum on free. Welsh and the Paddy Patkinses 1 shilling. Redis members invalids of old guard find pucy pram to fate the sort of their butt. For her passkeets supply to the janitrix, the Mistress Cather. This way to the museyroom. Mind your hat's going in. Now yez are in the Willingdon museyroom. This is a Prussian gun. This is a French. Tip. This is the flag of the Prussians, the cap and the sarissa. This is the bullet that bing the flag of the Prussians. This is the French that fire on the bull that bang the flag of the Prussians. Saloose the cross gun. Up with your pike and fork. Tip. Bull's foot. Fine. This is the triple-worn hat of Lipolium. Tip. Lipolium hat. This is the Willingdon on his same white hearse, the Coken cape. This is the big Strouter Willingdon, grand and magentic in his gold-rimmed spurs, and his iron ducks, and his quarter-brass woody shoes, and his magnate's garters, and his Bangkok's best, and Golia's galoshes, and his pull-upon Easian war-trews. This is his big wide hearse. Tip. This is the 3 Lipolium boyne grouching down in the living detch. This is an Inenmyskillen Inglis. This is a Scotcher grey. This is a Davy stooping. This is the bog Lipolium mortaring the Lipolium beg. A Gallagher's argument. This is the petty Lipolium boy that was neither bag nor bug. I say, touch old Fitzchuramush, Dirty Mac Dyke, and Harry O'Harry, all of them Arminus Varminus. This is Delian Alps. This is Mont Tyvel. This is Mont Tipsy. This is the Grand Mons Injun. This is the Crimuline of the Alps, hooping to shelter shock of 3 Lipoliums. This is the Ginnies with their Leghorns fainting to read in their handmaid's book of astrology while making their war undersides the Willingdone. The Ginnies is a coin her hand, and the Ginnies is a raven her hair, and the Willingdone get the band up. This is Big Willingdon Memorial Tallow Scoop Wounder Worker obsequies on the flanks of the Ginnies. Sexcalibur horsepower. This is me, Belcham, sneaking his Philippi out of his most awful grimaced sun's hat Cromwelly. Looted. This is the Ginnies Hastings dispatch for to irrigate the Willingdon. Dispatch in thin red lines cross the short front of me, Belcham. Yaw, yaw, yaw. Leaper, Arthur. Sphere, seeken. Field gaze, thy tiny frau. Hoigting. Nap. That was the tic-tacs of the Ginnies for to Fontenoy the Willingdon. She. The Ginnies is Gillis agent courting of the Lipoliums, and the Lipoliums is gone boycott crazy onto the one Willingdon. And the Willingdon get the band up. This is Bode Belcham, bonnet to Busby, breaking his secret word with a ball up his ear to the Willingdon. This is the Willingdon's Harold Ditch Pack. Ditch pick disployed on the regions rare of me Belcham. Salamangra, aye, cherry Ginnies, fig tree you, damn fairy Anne Voutre. Willingdon, that was my first joke of Willingdon, tick for tack. This is me Belcham in his 12-mile cowchooks, wheat, tweet, and stamp forth foremost, footing the camp for the Ginnies. Drink a sip, drank a sup, for he's as sooner buy a Guinness as he'd stale sore store sout out. This is Rucius Bowles. This is a Trench. This is Mistletops. This is Canon Futter with the popey nose. After his 100 days' indulgence. This is the Blessed. Tara's Widders. This is Ginnies in the Bonnyborn Bluches. This is Lipoliums in the rowdy houses. This is the Willingdon by the splinters of cork order fire. Tonnerre! Bull's ear. Play. This is Camelry. This is Floodens. This is the Soffaltreens in action. This is their Mobley. This is Panic Burns. Almigad, art is too loose. This is Willingdon cry. Brum, brum, cum brum. This is Ginny's cry. Underwetter. Goat strip Finlands. This is Ginny's running away to their Austerlitz down bunker shields. With a nip, nippy nip and a trip, trippy trip so airy. For their hearts right there. Tip. This is me, Belcham's tank you, silver plate for kitchen the crepes in the cool of his canister. Poor the pay. This is the Bismarck of the Marathon Merry of the Ginnies they left behind them. This is the Willingdon Branlish, his same memorial tallow scoop Sophie Keepo for his royal diversion on the runaway Ginnies. Gambarista della Porca, Delaveris Femeris. This is the pettiest of the Lipoliums. Toffee thief, that spy in the Willingdon from his big white house, the Cape and Hope. Stonewall Willingdon is an old maxi monumentary. Lipoliums is nice hung bushellers. This is Hyena Hennessy laughing aloud at the Willingdon. This is Lipsig Dooley krieging the funk from the Hennessy. This is Hindu Shima shin between the Dooley boy and the Hennessy. This is the wixy old Willingdon picket up the half of the three-foiled hat of Lipoliums from out the bloodle filth. This is the Hindu waxing rangy mad for a bomb shoob. This is the Willingdon hanking the half of the hat of Lipolium up the tail on the buckside of his big white hearse. Tip! That was the last joke of Willingdon. Hit. This is the same white hearse of the Willingdon. Culpin help waggling his tailor scrup with a half of a hat of Lipoliums to insult on the Hindu sea boy. Nay, bull's rag foul. This is the sea boy, mad hershrash as, up jump and pumpin', cry to the Willingdon. Ap puckaroo, pucka you rep. This is the Willingdon-born stable gentleman, tinders his matchbox to the Kersigan shimmer shin. Basucker Usted. This is the Durfahim sea-boy blow the whole of the half of the hat of lipoliums off the top of the tail on the back of his big wide hearse. Tip, bullseye, game. How Copenhagen ended. This way, the museroom. Mind your boots going out. Phew! What a warm time we were in there. But how Keeling is here for airbouts. We know where she lives, but you mustn't tell anyone for the lamp of Jiggalanthan. It's a candle little house of the month and one windles, down a down, high down a down, and numbered quaintly mine. And such reasonable weather, too. The vagrant winds a waltz around the Piltdowns on every blasted holly rock. If you can spot 50, I spy 4 more. There's that gnarly bird ye gathering, a run a little, do a little, piree a little, pour a little, wipe a little, kicks a little, sever a little, eats a little, whine a little, ken a little, helf a little, pelf a middle, gnarly bird. A very tableland of bleak-barred fields. Under his 7 Rothschilds lies one, Lumproar. His glav two-side him, Scud on Torst. Our pigeons pair are flown for North Cliffs. The 3 of crows have flapped it southernly, cracking of debacle to the cavartas of that sky whence Trebus answer. Well, 'tis well. She never comes out when Thon's on shower, or when Thon's clash with his Nixie girls, or when Thon's blowing tomb cracks down the gales of Thon. No, Nubo, no, ne bless on your leave. Her would be too moochy a freet. Of Burimeleg and Bindamal rolling eyes, and all the deed and the woe. Fee, fo, fum. She just does hopes till buys will be buys. Here, and it goes on to appear now. She comes, a peace fugle, a parody's bird, a perry pot mother, a pringle pick in the islandsy skippy, with pee-wee and powwows in beggy-baggy, on her bicky-backy, and a flick-flask flag flinging its pixie-lighting packs, humariboros, picking here, pecking there, pussy, plunder pussy. But it's the Armitides Tunai, Militicapos, and 2 morn we wish for a muddy kissmans for the minutia workers, and there's to be a gorge-ups truce for happiness child her everywhere. Come Nebo me and Suso sing this day we Sally Bright. She's borrowed the coach's headlight the better to pry. Who goes cute goes Sayaka and shoes around, and all spoiled goods go into her knapsack. Cartridges and rattling buttons, nappy spatties and flasks of all nations, clavicures and scampulas, maps, keys and woodpiles of halfpennies and moonlead brooches with blood-stained breeks in 'em, Bowstone night garters and masses of shoe sets, and nickelly knacks and foda all Michael, and a lugly parson of cates and howitzer muchias and midges and maggots, ills and ells, and with lofts of toffs and plures of bells, and the last sigh that comes fro the heart, Bucklead, with the fairest sin the sun saw, that's Kirk, with kiss Chris, cross Chris, kiss cross, undo lives end, slain. How bootiful and how true to wife of her, when strangely forbidden, to steal our historic presents from the past post-prophetical, so as to will make us all lordy heirs and lady maidesses of a pretty nice kettle of fruit. She is living in our midst of debt and laughing through all plours for us. Her birth is uncontrollable, with a napper on for her mask and her sabots kicking arias. So sair, so solly, if yous ask me, I sack you. Who? Grix may tries and trousers fall, there being 2 sights for ever a picture. For in the byways of high and providence, that's what makes life worth leaving and the world's a cell for sitters to sit in. Let young women run away with the story, and let young men talk smooth behind the butler's back. She knows her night's duty while Luntum sleeps. Did you save any tin, says he. Did I what? With a grin, says she. And we all like a Maridan because she is a mercenary. Through the length of the land lies under liquidation flute, and there's ne'er a hairbrow nor an eye bush on this globrous pace of Herrschaft Wartewellers. She'll loan a Vesta and hire some peat and sarch the sores, her cockles to heat, and she'll do all a turf woman can to piff the business on. Paff. To puff the blaziness on. Piff-poff. And even if Humpty shell fell frumpty times are awkward again in the Beard's Boo Saloon of all our grand remonstrances, there'll be eggs for the brickers come to mourn him sunny side up with care. So true is it that therewith's a turnover, the tay is wet too, and when you thank you catch sight of a hind, make sure but you're cocked by a hind. Then she is on her behaviourate job of acquaintance bandy, fruiting for firstlings and taking her tithe. We may take our review of the 2 mounds to see nothing of the himples here, as at elsewhere by 6s and 7s, like so many Hegels and Colliners, sit on a runt, sit scent breeched and some potterique, in their swisher-swish satins and their taffy-taff tights, playing Wharton's Folly at a tree putty on the planko in the perk. Stand up, Mickos, make straight for Minners, by order Nicholas Proud. We may see and hear of nothing if we choose of the short-legged Bergens off Corkhill, or the Bergamores of Arborhill, or the Gambols of Summerhill, or the Bergensellies of Misery Hill, or the country-bossed Burgones of Constitution Hill, though every crowd has its several tones, and every trade has its clever mechanics, and each harmonical has a point of its own, Olaf's on the rise, and Ivors on the lift, and Citrix placed in between them. But they are all there, scraping along to sneeze out a likelihood that will solve and salve life's robilus rebus, hopping around his middle like kippers on a griddle. Oh, as he lays dormant from the macro borg of Hold Hard to the micro berg of Pied de Poudre. Behove this sound of Irish sense. Really? Here English might be seen. Royally? 1 sovereign pun to the petery pence. Regally? The silence speaks the scene. Fake! So this is Dublong? Hush! Caution! Echo Land. How charmingly exquisite. It reminds you of the outwatch engravure that we used to be blurring on the blotch wall of his inkept house. Used they? I am sure that tiring Chabbles shoveler with the musical chocolate box, Myrie Mitchell, is nistling. I say, the remains of the outworn Gravemore, where used to be blurried the tolmens of the incubus. Used we? He is only pretended to be struggling at the Jubilee harp from a second existed listener, fiery Farrelly. It is well known. Look for himself and see the old butte now. Dublin, W-K-O-O. Here? By the Museyrooms wall. Fim, 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 with a grand funferal. Fum, 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 fum. 'Tis optophone which optophanes. List, Wheatstone's magic lyre. They will be tuggling forever. They will be likening for all off. They will be pre-tumbling for over. The harp's discord shall be theirs for olives. 4 things, therefore, saith our hereditary Mammon Lugius with his grand old historium, wrote near Boreorum, bluest book in Bailey's annals, F.T. Indiffinarski, ne'er sail fail till heather smoke and cloud weed ires isle sal pal. And here nay they are the fear of T totities. Unum, Adar, a bulbin boss sooner mounted up on an alderman. Aye, duum, Nizam, a shoe on a pure old wobbin. Ah ho, Trium, Tammuz, an urban maid, O'Brien a bride to be deserted. A dear, quodlibus, Margus Van, a pen no weightier nor a pole post, and so, and all sucketh. And so, how idle as winds turning pages on pages as innocents with anaclete play, Popeye anti-pop, the leaves of the living in the bulk of the deeds, annals of themselves, timing the cycles of events grand and national, bring facile-wise to pass how. 1132 A.D. Men like to ants or emmets wandering upon a groot hide walfisk which ray in a runnel. Blubbywares upert ubelanium. 566 A.D. On Balfair's night of this year after deluge, a crone that had a wicked kish for to hail dead turves from the bog, looking it under the blay of her kish as she ran for to satisfage her curiosity, and be me soul, but she found herself sackville of swart goody quickenshoon and small elegant brogues, so rich in sweat, blurry worgs at Hurtlesford. Silent. 566 AD. At this time it fell out that a brazen-locked damsel grieved Sorbolus Olos, because that puppet her minion was ravished of her by the ogre Puropilius Pius, bloody walls in Bally Orc Lackeys a Bally. 1132 AD. 2 sons at an hour were born until a good man and his hag. These sons called themselves Caddy and Primus. Primus was a sanitary man and drilled all decent people. Caddy went to Winehouse and wrote a piece of farce. Blotty words for Dublin. Somewhere, apparently, in the gin-and-go gap between Antediluvius and Anadominant, the copyist must have fled with his scroll. The Billy Flood rose, or an elk charged him, or the Saltrop world right of from the Excelsior most empyrene, bolt in some. Earth spake, or the Danamen Gallus banged pan the bliddy Duran. Ascribe aside then, and there is led off under Old's code with some fine covered by 6 marks or 9 pins in metalmen for the sake of his labour's dross, while it will be only now and again in our rear of our era, as an upshoot of military and civil engagements, that a Gynecure was left on to the scaffold for taking that same fine sum covertly by meddlement with the drawers of his neighbour's safe. Now, after all that Tarfasht and Peregrine or Dignant or Clare lift we our ears, eyes of the darkness, from tome of Liber Lividus, and how peaceably irenical, all dimmering dunes and glomering glades, self-stretches afore us our Friedland's plain. Lead neath stone pine the pastor lies with his crook, young pricket by pricket's sister nibbleth on returning viridities. A maid her rocking grasses, the herb trinity shams lowliness. Sky up is of evergrey. Thus, too, for donkey's years, since bouts of Heber and Herryman, the cornflowers have been staying at Ballymum, the dusk rose has choosed out Goatstown's hedges, tulips have pressed together them by sweet rush, townland of twined lights, the white thorn and the red thorn have fairy gayed the May valleys of Knockmaroon, and though for rings around them, during a chiliad of Perry Helligangs, the Formorians have brittled the tuath of the Danes, and the Oxman has been pestered by the firebugs, and the joints have thrown up Jerry's building to the Kevinses, and little on the green is child's father to the city. Year, and laugh tears. And the pack-ceiling buttonholes have quadrilled across the centuries, and whiff now waft to us, fresh and made of all the smiles, as on the eads of Kill-all-who. The babblers with their thangers vain have been, Confucium hold them. They were and went, thigging thugs were, and huny hymn songtoms were, and comely norgals were, and polyful fiancies. Men have thawed, clocks have sir hummed, the blonde has sought out of the hubroon, else kiss thou may, mean Kerry Piggy, and the dunkle dames have counted with their hellish fellows. Who ails tongue coddu, a space of dumb bills silly? And they fell upon one another, and themselves they have fallen. And still now nights and by nights of yore do all bold floras of the field to their shy fawn lovers say only, cull me ere I wilt to thee, and but a little later, pluck me whilst I blush. Well may they wilt, marry and profusedly blush, be troth. For that saying is as old as the Howits. Lay the whale a while in the wheelbarrow. Isn't it the truth I'm telling you? To have fins and flippers that shammy and shake. Timmican, tamp tear, tampting tam, flappity, flippity, fleepow. In the name of Anum, this carl on the copgee of impelted thongs, a path alone, who the Joe bigger be he. Forshapen his pig-made hogshead shrunk his plud's foot. He hath lock-toed this short shins, and behold, that's pectoral, his mamma muscles most moisturous. It is slaking nuncheon out of something's brain pan. Me seemeth a dragon man, he is almost on the Kiep fief I hear, is coms tipple Saxoon, be it Junipery or February, Marrax or Aberhill, or the ramping riots of Purios and Furios. What a quake, sort of Mahan! It is evident the Mickandaddy. Let's we overgrope his fire defences and the kraals of slit-slugged marrog bones. Cave! He can prosperous the pillory way to Hercules pillar. Come on, fool, porta-fool, hoisereed, women-blung monk sewer. Excuse us, Chorley Guy. You Tollarday Donsk. You Tokatifskowesian. You Spigety Anglias. You Phonio Saxio. Clear also. 'Tis a jute. Let us swap hats and excheck a few strong verbs, weak ouch together, yap yazzard, abast the bluty creaks. Okay. Welcome back from the break. That was the first segment of Chapter 1-1 from Finnegans Wake, a serious start to a crazy project. Before we get into details, TJ, immediate reaction.
There's some, I know that last time we were like, where are the laughs? There are a couple times I legit chuckled. Part of it is because I was like, I had potty brain and some of the words just together made me laugh.
Right.
But some of it specifically, like there's something on page 10 when you get to few on page 10.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I know exactly what's happening. And it made me, and also like the tip coming up in that section.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I know exactly what's happening. And it was this moment of like the clouds parted. And I was like, I know narrative. And then that quickly dissipated.
It quickly dissipates, yeah. It sort of gives you a reassurance that Joyce, he has something in mind, but he's breaking down all of the structure as he goes. So the Oxford World Classic summarizes each of these sections. Let's see if any of this lines up with what we thought. So when we're following the line and page numbering conventions, we ended up stopping in the middle of a section, and when we get to the next episode, it'll become clear why we stopped where we stopped. But pages 1-16 we read. So from page 3, we start with, and this is quoting the Oxford World Classic edition, a tour guide mid-flow is speaking. We're by the River Liffey, in or near Dublin, and going back to the first story of all, the original Fall. And as I said, the line and page numbering conventions are fairly universal. So when I say 4-1, I mean page 4, line 1. When I say line 4-17, it means 17th line on page 4. So from 4-1-17, the post-lapsarian struggle for existence, the promise of peace. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
Here's a section that from 4-18 to 8-8. This is the first point of clarity, which is the death of Finnegan, when Finnegan climbs his ladder and falls and dies. And then the section that you were talking about, 8-9 through to 10-23, is the Willingdon Museum. And so talking about that, it also the reference here is also Finnegan's mild indiscretion projected onto the Battle of Waterloo.
Yeah, this is the section I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I think that the best part about this section, at least for me, was that I could get characterization out of it with the tour guide going around, look at this, give me money. Look at this, look at this, give me money. Like, yeah, and
references to Napoleon and his hat.
Yeah, and I did the thing that we said we can't escape, where I was just like, I want to look at the way that it's constructed, and it's all one massive paragraph. And so it's like the speech that he has learned to be this tour guide. And also, I don't think I'm ever going to call it a museum again. It's a museyrooms.
Museyrooms. Yeah.
It's a museyrooms from now on.
So good.
I was like, this is when I chuckled.
After that, 10-24 to 12-17, introducing the thrifty woman, a bird or a slavey, who retrieves the letter. 12-18 to 13-19, another look at the corpse. So we go back to Finnegan. From 13-20 to 15-27, we get some historical context. And then the section we stopped in the middle of, which starts at 15-28, we have Mutt and Jute, who are discussing national conflicts and domestic relations. And so we will start the next episode with the dialogue between Mutt and Jute. We thought that that would be a good place to start. I know the purists will say you can't stop in the middle of a segment. We're going to do it anyway because the purists aren't listening. I mean, or the purists are the only ones listening. Sorry, purists. I thought it was interesting. Like, I think, I've started running like for my health, just for my heart health. I don't like it. I never like it. I've never liked running in my life. I've never liked running. But I do it every day because I should. And every single time I run, I spend my time counting down the minutes until I'm no longer running. Like, I'm like, like today I ran 45 minutes on the treadmill at the gym, and 10 minutes in, I'm like, I'm 25% of the way there. And then 20 minutes in, I'm like, I'm 50% of the way there. And I had to keep tricking myself just to stay going. And I felt a lot of that energy when reading this, which is my brain was getting to that place where I was like, this is too hard. Stop. You've got too much left to read. I was looking at the clock. I was realizing, it's like, this is getting long. No, this is too hard to listen to. I apologize to any listeners who are going to say these episodes are too long. The point is not to cultivate listeners. The point is to get this book, to read this book. And if it takes the time it takes, we're going to try and break it up so that we're not doing this for hours on end, but yeah, this is
so digestible in that way. But I will say this though: you could read me the phone book any day, but you know that. But there's, I was caught by one line at the on page 3, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start searching for gems. But like, where oranges have been laid to rust upon the green since Devil first loved Levy, I was like, that is. Where oranges have been laid to rust alone is like, there are some writers who that would be the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, and this is on the first page. How dare he? Rude as hell. There's just, Musey room from now on.
Yeah. There's a lot to take in. I mean, I think it's very hard to really analyze it as you read it. I think there's a lot of Irish in there. Obviously, there's a lot of that really, it's very clear that there's a lot of Irish.
Which forced the way it's written, it kind of, I don't want to say it forced a voice, but it
does a bit, yeah.
Yeah, it forces a voice in a way that I remember last episode 0, like, we will not be putting on an Irish accent. But I was like, no. The text says, ha ha ha, you think you're funny.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the text literally says that sometimes. It's sort of that confronting thing of being like, now laugh. Okay, cool. I mean, it's good practice. If I feel like I'm going back to my old days as an actor and voiceover guy, doing the cold read, but it's been fun. That is episode 1. That's all the time we have of Wake. So if you hate someone, why not suggest they listen?
That's how our podcast spreads.
There's just there's no way anyone's listening. I'm sure my mum is listening. So hi, mum. But I've been Toby Malone, joined by TJ Young, and we are underway. We have begun. The journey of 1,000 miles has begun with 13 pages. Join us next week for the second half of chapter 1-1, where we will get into Jute and Mutt and their dialogue. We will see you there, masochists. This has been Wake, a cold reading of James Joyce's Finnegans Wake, just to hear it out loud. If you've made it this far, thank you for your dedication. Join us next week for another segment of Finnegans Wake and a chat about what we've found. Wake is a Moon Street Media podcast, engineered by TJ Young and Toby Malone. Our theme song is The Ballad of Perso Riley, arranged and performed by Meg Logue after James Joyce. Wake is recorded in Canada, where Finnegans Wake is in the public domain. For community and bonus content, join us at our free Patreon at patreon.com/wakepod. If you have questions about Finnegans Wake, don't ask us. We're just as confused as you are. See you next week.